Hey, so oftentimes when we think about procrastination, we think about it in the negative. That's typically the way in which we're used to experiencing it and um, relating to it. For example, say there's a homework assignment that you need to get done, and that homework assignment has a due date, but you continue to procrastinate until the last moment. And so there's this negative response in your body, you have all this stress that is taking place, and it just isn't good. Or maybe in the relation to exercise, you should do it in the morning. You know you should get up and go exercise, but you procrastinate, you push it off into a later time of the day. And what happens is that many times it doesn't take place. You put it off and it never happens. Okay? Maybe budgeting. You're supposed to budget your finances, look over your finances, schedule things. It doesn't get taken care of, and then you get sideswiped with this occurrence, with this negative experience, externally, internally, that takes place, guilt behind it, all of these negative things. And so that's what we typically have when we procrastinate. That's what we're kind of used to using, how we're used to using that word. That's the context that we're typically used to relating to it or utilizing it. But in a discussion that I had with the group of ladies this past week, we were just discussing the different ideas and concepts of living healthy and really taking the time through the text that we're reading to reflect on the whys behind the whats. And so we were just sharing different tips that have been helpful. And one thing that came to mind was this idea of procrastination that I got years ago and had used. And it was beneficial. So procrastination, in the sense of putting off something that you're not supposed to do, can be utilized and applied towards your fitness goals, okay? Say, for example, you're at a family gathering, okay? And a relative, an aunt, a friend, they're like, "Oh, have this, you've been doing, girl, you don't need to." You see what I'm saying? And you know what? Typically, it's a lot of times you'll hear, "Oh, you're already in shape. You can go ahead and eat what you want." Or you hear, "You've been doing good. Go ahead and treat yourself." Now, the issue with the first one is, if I'm at a state to which my body is healthy, okay, and healthy meaning I have utilized food in a way in which it supports the healing process, it amplifies the healing process, accelerates the healing process, it goes along with the functions of my body. That's what eating healthy is, okay? So if someone says you've been doing good, go ahead and eat this or that, okay? And the thing that they're tempting you to eat is something that is proven to be the opposite of helping out, going along, assisting with that healing process. Then we have to understand that that individual has the wrong perspective of what health truly is. The things that we do are to enhance. Now, do we have perfection in every area? No, because we all have habits that we have developed or been trained to do that are there when we come into the awareness of it. And living in a sense or a state of constant awareness of your shortcomings will just produce more shortcomings. So that's not the direction to go. However, when you become aware of something, meaning this particular thing has actually been causing the acceleration of deterioration in my body. It's been restricting the amount of energy that I should have in order to relate to people, okay? The energy you get from exercising and eating the right amounts of food, the right type of food, which is really at the top of the list when it comes to nutrition, is the right type of food. That is how you gauge whether or not it's healthy, okay? Then if somebody says you're doing good, typically they're speaking of the way that you look, because they really don't know what you've been doing. Nobody knows but you and God what you've actually been doing. So when a person says you've been doing good, okay, first of all, they're just giving you a general overview, like you've been doing good. Like, what does that mean? We need to look at the details. Like, how do you know I've been doing good? I could have just been starving myself, and there's times, and you probably experienced this, where you felt a certain way, but someone assumed that you were doing better than you actually were. You know what I mean? And so their assessment is based on something that's not substantiated. Okay, so they don't know if you've been doing good. And so that statement, you see, when it comes at you, you have to be able to understand that. It's so important. Otherwise, you'll feel that pressure. Or in those situations, when you understand that, these concepts that we're discussing now, you can then actually help someone else to understand, well, or ask them questions to allow them to contemplate or consider why they're saying what they're saying. Who knows why they're saying it? Maybe they just want you to eat the way that they're eating because they don't want to feel the pressure of for lack of a better term, a clean glass next to a dirty glass. Not saying that anybody's, dirty. But when you're doing something that you should be doing for yourself, and another person doesn't feel like they're capable of doing it, they are, but they feel like they're not capable, or they don't want to do it at that moment, sometimes they'll encourage people to do what they're doing. Not because they want the person to feel bad like them. If they had the option to perform these things, or the option to see that they're capable of doing what's healthy in their life, then oftentimes they do. And oftentimes they would. And so if that's the case, then it would be better off for you and them to address and ask questions to allow them to do that, versus feeling pressures. Oh yeah, I guess you're right. Or versus just letting your flesh take a hold of that excuse. Yeah, I've been doing good. Let me treat myself. Okay, something that works against the healing process, something that has been proven to cause you to feel and to function mentally, emotionally, and physically at a lower level, at a less optimal level than you have the right to experience, that's not a treat. Okay, just wanted to clarify that. So when we think about procrastination can be used in the positive. And this is how it can. In those situations to where someone's saying, oh, well, have this or have that, maybe you want to ask them a question. If you don't, you can just say, okay, just put it to the side, maybe later. Or you can just say, oh, no, I'll have some later. And even when it's not in those situations to where someone's offering you something, you can always use that on your own. So if you're, there's been times when, oh man, I remember when I used to walk fast past the bread and pastry aisle. I used to walk real fast, and I used to hope that I didn't smell it. And now I can smell, even my taste buds have changed, like real food. Like when I smell restaurant, smells, or the bread aisle pass by, it doesn't, there's nothing that's drawing me to it. I can walk down the bread and pastry aisle, look at them and say, this is nasty. Like now I would not want to be there because it's just nasty. Like the chemicals and then the responses that take place in your body. And so I'm seeing it actually for what it is. It's just a bunch of chemicals that deteriorate our body before the time and bring on illness and disease, okay? And so when we can see it for what it is versus thinking that we're being deprived, that makes it easier to walk away from it. But in this situation, I'm talking about the idea of procrastination. So I want to encourage you, procrastinate away. Procrastinate when it comes to those things that you know and you have already seen the evidence that are not beneficial to you. The foods, the things you watch, the people that you let bark in your ear, or what I call sometimes is someone vomiting on you. Just you come into the conversation and your emotions are good. Then somebody comes and they vomit on you, and many times they're not doing it because they're like, I'm gonna go walk over to this person. They're just releasing what's on the inside of them, and so procrastinate the conversations with these individuals. Procrastinate maybe the conversation that they want to have, change it and speak about something else. Or procrastinate when you pass by the pastry aisle or something that you're tempted to have, the Starbucks place or whatever it is. Procrastinate when you go to the store and you know that you spend too much money. You just buy things for no reason. Procrastinate. I saw a little meme the other day, probably about a couple of weeks ago, and it said something to the effect of my Amazon, I think it's called cart or something. It's where you look at something and you put it away for later, like your wish list, maybe something like a wish list. They said it was up to like a few $1 million or something like that, and it was this joke. But that's better than just buying it, you know what I mean? So that's kind of a funny sense of procrastination. So procrastination in this sense would be a positive. Procrastinate the bad. Procrastinate the self-destructive. Procrastinate the unproductive. Procrastinate everything that renders a counterproductive result. I hope that was helpful. Talk to you later.